Well, good morning. Oh, another beautiful day. And what an amazing meditation. The title that I've selected for today is Perfectly Human: Truth Without Pretense. If the human journey is anything at all, it's an experience of contrasts, emotional highs and lows where we are challenged to either tell the truth or to wear masks. What an amazing revelation in spite of all the religious and spiritual conditioning throughout my life. Indeed, as I reflect back on some of the more painful times in my life, even when I would beat myself up for falling short of my own expectations, I have made it my practice to tell the truth. I have been willing to be perfectly human, to tell the truth without pretense. That's what it means to be a paradox man. In this world, we have been conditioned to be the exact opposite of what we were when we were little children. As little children, if we hurt, or we're angry, or we're happy, or we're sad, or we're excited, it didn't matter what the emotion was, we expressed it. But our parents, our teachers, our ministers, our society, our culture trained that genuineness, that authenticity out of us. We were taught to have a stiff upper lip. Big boys don't cry. We were taught the wrong way. We were taught to put on a happy face. And don't ever admit to feeling weak. Don't ever admit to feeling angry. Don't ever admit to being afraid. Yeah. Don't admit the truth. Cover it up. Wear a mask. Be a hypocrite. Our culture has indoctrinated us well, hasn't it? That's why we live in a world where truth is a rare commodity, because humans, except for children, have been conditioned out of telling the truth. It doesn't just go to people that are religious. It goes maybe even more so to people that consider themselves spiritual, like I do and like most of my friends do. Yeah, we're metaphysicians. We're spiritual people. And we listen to the teachers when they say, you avoid fear at any cost. Never be afraid. Because when you're fearful, you're feeding the demons. You're feeding that's exactly what the bad creatures, whether human or extraterrestrial, that's exactly what they want. They feed off of our fear. Now, how many times have you heard New Age teachers teach that? Now, I'm not telling you to beat them up, because I've probably said it myself. We mean well. We know that it's not a good idea to live our life terrorized all the time, to live in constant fear, and to think of ourselves as weak and wretched. We talked about that last night. In the song Amazing Grace, when John Newton wrote that song that saved a wretch like me, well, perhaps it was somewhat appropriate. He was a slave. He was a slave trader. He transported slaves from Africa to the New World. That was his job. And he saw the light. And he wrote about the amazing grace that saved a wretch like he was. But when I hear a little girl like Rama sing, "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me," it doesn't register. Why are we teaching our little kids that they're also wretches? Because we're, quote, born in sin and shapen in iniquity, as the Bible tells us? That's a lot of bunk, you know it? It's a lot of bunk. There's no such thing as someone born a wretch. We're born with a clean slate. Each time we come in, we forget who we were. We forget any past lives or anything like that. Well, most of us. We don't remember. We don't draw the connection between where we are right in this present moment and where we may have been sometime in the past, in so-called a past life, or the past heaven. Sometimes kids do remember such things. Oh, when I was with God, or when the angels did this, and a little kid will say something innocently as they get a flashback of memory. And it doesn't make sense to the adults that are hearing it. They think they're imagining something. No, they're not imagining. They're remembering. But we've been conditioned. We've been trained. We've been well trained to put on that happy face. Oh boy, we're not allowed to be genuine. We're not allowed to be authentic. We're not allowed to do anything other than be placid amidst all the storm. Be calm when everything is going to hell around you. Don't show any emotion. Don't express what you're really feeling. And certainly don't express those thoughts, the false evidence appearing real as you paint the picture of what might happen, which may not ever happen, but you feel it when you think it might happen. 2 weeks ago, if you had talked to me about how I was seeing the world, I was seeing the world really, really well. Honestly, I was. Just 2 weeks ago. If you had quizzed me on our progress and what I saw the future as, I saw the future as bright because I saw my future as bright. I saw that I had won a whole bunch of arguments in court and stuff like that. I had won some battles, and I was on my way to winning yet another battle. And then the very next day, that Monday, the 17th, I got the notice from PNC Bank. And some of the first images that flashed through my head were images of SWAT teams surrounding my house, either forcibly removing me from the home that I live in, or being willing to die, saying, "No, I'm not going to jail, just shoot me." These are some of the first images that I had. And I'll tell you, when you have those images, you're going to feel afraid because you're afraid. Something is threatening your life. Something is threatening your peace. Something is threatening you. And we make up all sorts of reasons why we're not supposed to be afraid. And people that are not experiencing those threats can't understand why. If you're such a spiritual person, why would you feel afraid? Why would you even have such a thought? As SWAT teams surrounding you and forcing you to do something that you don't want to do. Let me ask you something. Why wouldn't you feel afraid when somebody has made such a threat to evict you from your own home? That was part of the threat, to evict me. They wanted me to leave willingly and take $750 to vacate my house, the Cash for Keys program. They were willing to pay me all of $750 to relinquish this home to them, so they could turn around and swindle some other person by creating another mortgage for somebody else, even though, of course, the title is clouded and they'd have trouble selling it. But be that as it may, that was their threat. That was their threat. And I've been conditioned like everybody else. I've seen the pictures of what they've already done to some other people. I've seen what they've done in Gaza, where they go and they actually bulldoze people's homes. Or in the West Bank, they just bulldoze the homes as if they don't even exist. And we're not supposed to own property, one individual keeps telling me. We're supposed to own property. Look at Anastasia. Look at what she's painted the picture of the perfect world where everybody has their own kin's domain and it's theirs in perpetuity. It's their families forever and ever. It's their property. And some people would like us to all be nomads. And that's fine if you're in a nomadic culture. But that's not the way it is for most humans. Most humans have a right to feel secure in their own home. That was one of the human rights guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. To be secure in our own home, in our own person, in our own property. And don't give me that BS of we're not supposed to have property. That's what the physical world is all about. It's about property. It's about taking ownership of this property, first and foremost of all, my own body, through which I experience the human life that I opened with, the human life of contrast, where I experience the highs and the lows, the joys and the sadness, the anger and the love. I experience them all. And I make a choice, and I realize I've been making that choice again and again throughout my life. I can go back and read some of my poetry from the 70s, from the 80s, from not so much from the 90s. The 90s were actually a pretty good time for me. Well, not counting the divorce in 1993. That was a little bit painful. But I got through it all. And then 2005 comes and the lawsuit hits. And I'm threatened. Here, the universe has just provided me a means to accomplish what I came to do. To actually let my light shine before the world. And right away, it's threatened. Right away, battles are placed in front of me. What am I going to do? Am I going to surrender and say, okay, take the house. Take what Dr. Mary left me. It doesn't matter because I'm spiritual. Bullshit. I'm human. I'm having a human experience. And I was just left a gift provided by the hand of God as I saw it. By someone that loved me and believed in me even at the times when I wasn't believing in myself. That's one of the gifts that Dr. Mary gave me. As I said, 2 weeks ago, I was in a high place. I was feeling pretty secure, and I saw the world as going very well, thank you. We have reached the tipping point. We have awakened, and we're going into a time of great bliss. But then I got hit. I got hit below the belt, betrayed by the legal system in this country, betrayed by the clerk of court, who is my friend on Facebook, betrayed by lawyers and bank officials that had, at least from my perspective, agreed to certain terms. And now they were violating those terms. They were changing it yet again. And I felt angry. I felt fear. I was extremely sad for a while. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I started preparing my response. And I moved into filing the lawsuit. Yesterday I got served with papers from the court on a whole bunch of hoops that I have to jump through. You've got to do this, you got to do this, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do this. And I know what they mean. I know what those hoops are. Those hoops are methods to get me to make a technical error that will allow them to dismiss the legal issues and the issues of law, the issues of justice that I'm bringing before the court. If they can reject it on a technical issue, that gives them an excuse not to deal with the real problem, the real issue, the real core values that are inherent in the lawsuit. They did the same thing when I appealed a couple of years ago in 2010, when I appealed what the lower court had done. And they ended up never making the bank or the attorneys or anybody else answer for what they had done wrong. They had broken their own rules. They had broken the law. But they weren't called on the carpet by the Court of Appeals. Instead, the Court of Appeals dismissed the whole thing for technicalities. This is what I'm talking about. These things piss me off. When is truth going to matter? Who are we going to find in support of truth? Well, I'm willing to stand and tell the truth. When I hurt, I'm willing to say I hurt. I'm willing to be authentic before the camera, before the world every day. What are you going to do? How are you going to live your life? Are you going to keep wearing the mask that we're so well trained to wear? And put on the happy face and pretend everything is wonderful? Or are you also going to be willing to tell the truth? And I'm not telling you to stay stuck in fear. I'm not telling you that at all. But I'm telling you to express what you're feeling when you're feeling it, to be real, to be genuine. That's the truth that sets us free. Is that the kind of truth you're willing to embrace? The kind that is childlike? A little child shall lead them. Interesting, isn't it? I find it so. And I leave you with these thoughts this morning, and I thank you once again for listening. Be beautiful because you are, just as you are. Namaste.